the musician and singer-songwriter from Israel, Yael Deckelbaum. I'm very happy to have her because she has reached something very, very outstanding. She, coming from Israel, being born in Jerusalem, she got the women on the street for a huge march of hope. And it was Palestinian women, it was Israeli women, it was Christian women, mothers, and from all ages, from the youngest to the oldest, they all marched for peace to set a sign that in this world we all have to stand together and bring that female power out there. And so I'm very curious to talk to her, and I hope that you will join this talk. Have fun with it. So welcome, Yael Deckelbaum. Thank you very much for coming. And we're here in Hanover, where you are having a concert. For us, for all of us, this is a very special time because there's so many chaos in the world and so much going on. And you, with your music, you have this big spirit of unity. So can you give us a little insight when this big idea started in you to reunite the women of the world?
With the big words. The idea, well, it's interesting because it was never an idea for me. It was like something in my DNA. So it's beyond an idea. And when I was 25 years old, I'm 44 now, so it's almost 20 years ago. I had this spiritual thing, spiritual awakening, or kind of spiritual too much voltage. Like I got really connected, and it became too much. So actually I was put in a hospital, mental hospital, when I was 25. And I really connected to some really higher thing at that time. And as part of the things, I felt that I need to go and make peace. And it's not something that I thought. I felt it. And everything that I've learned about who I am, about the world, all of the conditioning, just shed off, and I was like, here I am. It's like, here I am. And it was like some kind of code kicked in inside of me, and I just became that thing. And becoming that thing, for me, it was to go and make peace. And another thing was to go, and we have to bring the women to the Dead Sea. That was like my mantra. We have to bring the women to the Dead Sea. We have to bring the women to... And I was going and telling my friends, we have to bring the women to the Dead Sea, to the lowest place of the earth. And of course it was sounding really crazy, and I was disconnected from reality at the time. Make a long story short, they put me in a hospital. And then it was 3 weeks that I was in the hospital. And when I was released, it was like I was already on medication, already tamed, already afraid, already thinking that maybe something went wrong with me. And then it was like the doctor said that I'm sick, that I will need my whole life to be on medication, that I'm manic depressive, and that it's a disease, and like diabetic people, I'm going to have to take pills my whole life to stay stable. So this is how it started. So I was freed from the hospital and traumatized by the whole experience, and then I started to, a year after, I stopped taking the pills. And today it's been 18 years. I've never touched it again. Never. nor have I been hospitalized ever again. Because I've learned a few things. And so 12 years passed, and I was struggling because I realized I have a different character. I have a different wideness of lows and highs, things to figure out, some healing to do. And then 12 years later, a friend of mine told me about this movement, Women Wage Peace. So it's like that, had that ching-ching, and I wrote a letter to them because I knew they were going to do a march. So I just wrote a letter. So I wrote the letter, and they were really excited to hear from me. I offered help, with my music. And a few days later, I was sitting with a few of the leaders of the movement. It's not a movement that really has leaders because it's like more circular, and they have like the 100 women who are like in charge. And I sat with one of them, Lily. She held my hand and she said, "You found your tribe." It was like, okay. And also, they showed me a video of Leyman Gbowee, the Nobel Peace Prize winner from Liberia, who, together with a group of women, put an end to a civil war. They told me her story. They said these women in Liberia, they got together and they stopped a war that went for 13 years. And I looked at the video and I looked at these women, and they said to me, "In 2 months, we're going to march to the Dead Sea."
They didn't know about your picture
Nothing.
That you had.
Nobody knew.
So accidentally, you had the same picture than they.
I had that picture. They had that picture.
Incredible.
So we're going to march to the lowest place of the earth, to the Dead Sea. And I looked at them and I started to cry. And I told them about, I thought I was crazy, la la la. I knew it, and they looked at me and they said, okay, but maybe you shouldn't tell that story.
Now you're telling it.
I'm telling it because I'm not afraid of it anymore.
It's very powerful. Yeah.
I didn't tell it for a long time because I wasn't sure of myself, and now I am. But it took 20 years. So I cried. I said, "It's written in the stars. I have to march with you. I'm going to write the music." It's crazy, yeah?
Yeah. So I'm jumping in time a little now. You really, 2016, I think it was, where you made this this incredible video. Sorry, Joseph. Where all the women marched.
So that's when I made the video. So what happened was my ex-girlfriend, her name is Astal. She's a video director and a movie director. And also with her, I used to have visions. Like, she's the one who came up with the term Women of the World Unite, actually. Oh, okay. It's like we were watching this movie when we were like together many years before. It's one of the things that I cry.
It's fine.
Yeah, I know it is. I know it's fine. Yeah. So we were watching a movie called The Stoning of Soraya.
Yeah.
You know it?
Yeah.
So after the movie, we were so angry. And that was like at least 7 years before I met Women Wage Peace. And we were saying, why? Like, are people doing business with each other in this world? And there's countries where things like that are happening. And nobody's doing anything.
Yeah.
And why aren't the women doing something for each other, you know? And we were looking at each other, and she says, "Women of the world unite?" And I say, "Women of the world unite." It was like also a moment that we had.
So just for the audience, maybe briefly, the stoning of Soraya is a story of an Iranian woman who was accused to have betrayed her husband.
Yeah.
And finally she was stoned. Terrible story.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
And it's a true story.
Mm. Yeah, it's happening.
Happening still.
Yeah, it's still happening. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is when also this idea started, but we didn't know. We just had an idea. And then, so I met Women Wage Peace, and this whole vision of mine was coming true.
Mm-hmm.
It was their vision too.
Mm.
You know, it was like, then you discover you're not alone in what you're dreaming. And so I called Estelle and I said, we have to, while we were working on the march, the march wasn't only going to the Dead Sea. They started from the north of Israel to the south of Israel, and then from the west to the east. It's true. Mm-hmm. Like they were walking, these women were really planning a march of 2 weeks. It was going to end in the Dead Sea and then going back to Jerusalem. And so I told Estelle, I wrote this song, Prayer of the Mothers, because I felt also these mothers, most of the movement, the women in the movement are mothers who already have sons who went to the army or lost their sons in the army. So we're talking about women at the ages of 50, 60, elders. So I called Estelle and I said, listen, I wrote this song. We have to make a video clip in order for people to come to the march. And she said, no, Yael, the march is your video clip.
I was thinking of 45 days, it said, and on the internet, I was thinking of 40 days in the desert, like Jesus' story. And there are so many stories in religious myths or writings about those 40 days, 44 days. Was that really something? I mean, this is sacred land. This is a land where there has so much been fights about, and like this trace of light going through the desert, going through this land. This is what came up to my mind.
We did a little bit of that a year after, actually, like a few hours. Because you can't really have Palestinian women from the West Bank and Israeli women be together for 40 days in the desert. Technically, it's impossible for so many reasons, so many reasons. But we did a few hours. It's not staged. It's not anything. It's just something that happened. We brought a filming crew to film the women marching from the north to the south, the west to the east.
And how can if I imagine this between, let's say, Russian mothers and Ukrainian mothers, it's, of course, you're so much with that history and with all those injuries that happened. What do you think, was that possible? That those women said, okay, let's just forget about all this, what has been happening in my family, and I walk out there and I can feel it. What do you think was it?
It's beyond logic. It's beyond words. It's a moment of awakening. It's like, so there were 20 minutes where, in this march, there were 20 minutes where we were actually marching as one. With the Palestinian women from the West Bank. So there were 1,000 Palestinian women from the West Bank.
Incredible.
So they come out of the buses and they give hugs and they dance together and like creating there was a moment. And Leyman Gbowee came. And she led it like with her. She's a powerhouse. She's a really, really powerful woman and so inspiring. And she came. Like it was like, for me, it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So it was a moment when we can sense the potential, or we were already the embodiment of what it can be. But then you go back to your life, like then everyone goes back to their lives, to their conditions, to their relationships, to the rules of their society. So it's very hard to unite women who come from, especially Women Wage Peace tried to do something very, very different because it wasn't just left-wingers in the movement. They really tried to bring, and succeeded in bringing, religious women or white right-wingers as well, like women from peripheries. So it wasn't just about political views.
No, it's beyond that.
It's beyond political views. It's about true security. Mm-hmm. Like not power forcing, power game security. Like imposing power on other people for security. It's not military security. It's security that comes from a deeper place.
And it's also, isn't that crazy that the true security comes from trust, which is, if you see it from that military point of view, something very vulnerable. But on the other hand, for me, it's like if you're in that space, in that female power energy, all those side stages, let's call it daily politics and military and whatever, it's just vanished.
Yeah,
it's just not there.
Because we had the army to guard us.
Really?
There. Yeah, it was. It's not like I'm saying the army is bad, the women are good.
No.
But
I was talking about an energetic field.
Yeah, different energetic field.
Yeah,
it was definitely another language that the world doesn't even know how to speak it. Like even most women don't know how to speak it yet. Like I think because we've been taught. It's like building a new language or remembering an old language that the world doesn't speak. And now how do you put it into terms? And it's the language of the heart. It's not only the language of women, it's also the language of men.
Yeah, they have their circles too, the circles of peace, the circles of activity, of feeling their power of life.
Yeah.
For me, it's like once you felt it, really in a circle of women to create this energy, you never forget it, and it's always pulling and wanting that I always want to come back to this energy, and because then it's something giving.
It's a life force.
Yeah,
it's a real life force. It's a force of life, the force of life, because it's the whole movement of it is to nourish, sustain life, acceptance, compassion, and also very differently from this world, as if I take it a little bit more to complex and depth, I think we live in a world where we are all, I'm going a little bit deeper now, okay?
Sure.
This is something I've learned also after being in the poster side of the peacemaking, like okay, we got the Palestinians, we got the religious women, we got the secular,
That's the TEDx.
And we're all like, here we are, and we're doing peace. Here we're hugging, we're smiling, like the whole. It looks like peace. Okay, I'm not saying what we did looked like peace. It felt like peace. I know because I was there. So there was something there that happened that was not just looking like peace. Afterwards, it went a little bit to that place, too much, in many situations, but I didn't really recognize it. So I've been in many marches, women marches, and a lot of times there's the fake it till you make it thing that's you create the conditions and then something happens or it doesn't happen. Most of the times when we got together and to bring people together, to bring women together, it's going to be a struggle. It's not always easy.
No.
You have to bridge so many differences. And when bridging differences, a lot of times I can say about me, for the sake of getting along, I would go change my whole form in order to fit so that there would be harmony, But inside me, I was losing power a lot. So for many years, like for 4 years, I've been doing this, but I've been putting the looks like peace. Like I really wanted something. I really wanted it, but I put the goal or the cause, before myself. So I think this is something I learned, that next time now I will do it differently.
How do you do it? Because I have sometimes the same problem. If you stay just with you and yourself, and you say here no, and there no, and there yes.
You have to put boundaries and not feel guilty. This is something that I didn't know how to do. So the guilt, it was too present there. Even for me, especially as an Israeli woman who is privileged to be a citizen of a country where there are other citizens who are Arab, who don't have, they like on the paper they have the same rights, but actually no.
Really? Oh.
Like it's not. They don't. When we would fly, me and Miriam Tukan would fly out of Israel. They would treat us differently when we crossed the border. So more suspicious of her. Ask her more questions. Little things like that make you feel that you're not equal. Because she's Arabic, but she's an Israeli citizen. So it's very, very, very complicated. Okay, it's not, being the whole 48, the whole situation with Palestine, the whole situation with the army protecting me, but actually being so offensive for the Palestinians and the people in Gaza, and so I have a lot of guilt inside of me to feel that I have the privilege that the Palestinian people don't have. And so a lot of times when collaborating or when having debates or talks about the political situation, it was like I would put myself down.
So to make it easier for the others.
To make it easier for the others. And I'm saying sacrificing yourself or sacrificing what feels good for you or sacrificing your well-being, it's not peacemaking.
Talking with mothers, is it more important that you as a mother feel good, or is it more important that the child feels good and then sacrificing your own feeling well? I think this is a big question, because in our fashionable Western world, women kind of seem to give up believing in either the one or the other. Either they completely go into this business direction and that's just themselves, and they say, oh, if I'm feeling good, then my child is well too, which I cannot sense so much that way. But on the other hand, if you just give in so much to just do everything for the child, then we kind of seem to go back to the Middle Age, which is also not true, So in those extremes, there has to be a way through it, and a new DNA maybe. I hope that there's a new DNA for mothers coming, and you have worked so much with mothers. What, like in the very depth, is like the red string,
I can't give an advice to mothers, as I'm not a mother, about how to mother. Like I can only take off my hat and say bravo. And I do know that a happy mother is a better mother. But being good in business, is it really what makes you happy? I don't know. Like working long hours, and I don't know. Everyone has what makes them happy. But do we really remember what it feels like to be happy? Like, what does it mean to be happy? Like, what is your true rhythm? Where are you trying to fit yourself into kind of the rhythm of the world that's we have so high we appreciate so much success. We appreciate large amounts of money. We appreciate status. Is that happiness? Is this the feminine way?
You just said it before that it's a force of life that we're talking about.
Yes.
And sometimes if you look outside, it seems like everything's getting darker and darker, and on the other side it's getting lighter and lighter.
What's the other side?
What do you think?
I think there's two forces, like two main forces in the world right now that are very, very powerful and becoming more intense. And one of them is like the really, 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 really extremely crazy side of the, you can call it patriarchy, but it's even more, it's like this matrix conscious, that's the part where people are not free. You know, the whole system where people are not free. What does it mean not to be free? We are being all like under this huge spell of a system, and we're asleep under it. And that our consciousness, it's being played with. So it's not only by using force like Putin in the war, it's also by manipulation, using our weaknesses, talking about now AI and everything that happens in the web, where so there's good sides and bad sides, but in a way it's not a fair game because there's so much knowledge already on how to work people's minds, how to play on your weakness, how to make you play with you like a puppet.
Yes.
So it keeps people under control, and they don't even know. We have the illusion of freedom, and so people can do all kinds of things, but it's like this whole game or arena of a few controlling the masses, and gaining power and accumulating more and more. I don't know what they want. Like, I don't even understand. So there's that. Like even what happened in COVID, which you can agree or not agree on, but there's that. And then there is realize people who are coming, more and more people and more movements of people who are coming to the realization of the source of everything that we have inside of us. So it's like, on one hand you have like puppeteers, and people are, and I'm not saying that I'm like free, but it's the thing about having someone. It's like you have it in religion, you have it in money, you have it in business, you have it in so many ways that people are taking your connection. Even your parents did it, even that they didn't want to do it. It just happened. When you grow up a child, when you want them to collaborate with you, a lot of times you take away their connection to their authenticity, to their inner voice, to their inner knowledge, to the inner connection. So it's a thing that I think most human beings have been teared apart from as children. And so that's how we become, in order to belong to society, we become these puppets. And we don't even know that we have something really huge inside of us, some kind of source, a way to connect, to have a self-autonomy. So I'm talking about self-autonomy to your health. A self-autonomy and, how do you say, samchut, an inner authority, not the outer authority. So the inner authority that connects to God or whatever it is, the inner authority that knows about my body, talking about the inner authority of a woman to have her child without having all kinds of doctors and scale, like the inner authority to just go on a trip without paying insurance, okay? Like the inner authority to be the sole creator of your reality. So there's more and more knowledge about these things, and I think more and more people who are realizing we have the key to create our reality. So, and it's more also because of the web, so it's becoming more, you get to hear about Peter Levine, about Gabor Mate, you get information to healing. We're talking about trauma more and more. We're realizing how our collective trauma as human beings goes thousands of years back, the collective trauma of women as being the the slaves of society for the last 5,000 years. So there's this knowledge, and more people who are going in that path and realizing, wait, but it's a process, you know, and it's not like black and white.
And it's always coming as like this bigger picture is always showing itself in very tiny scenes. Like I had it with my daughter. I told you I wanted to bring my daughter here because of this female inherited kind of. I wanted to let her participate. And she said, no, I don't want to. And I was struggling so much with just giving her that freedom. I mean, it's her freedom, right? Of course, we're in this matrix and we, you know, that freedom is still, I want to give it to her. But on the other hand, I knew that it might be something meaningful for her.
Yeah.
And so we're always turned into this. Every decision could have been wrong or right.
Yeah.
You don't know sometimes.
You don't know, but there's another thing, you know, every soul have their journey, and you have to respect their journey. You know, you can't argue with the journey of a soul. You can only give it a home. That's one of my friend, my good friend said that because of what happened with her child. You know, I have a good friend, her child died as a baby. And she said after that, you know, in one of the women's circles, she said, you can't argue with the journey of a soul. You can only give it a home.
Thank you. Okay.
Now you need the tissue.
No, fine. I wanted to ask you about Hines Zeba, because I don't understand Hebrew, but I had this vision when I was in the beginning of my 20s. I was studying culture and German literature, and I asked myself, what is that secret about German soul and this Jewish Hebrew culture? And I had this picture of a pattern of a building, which is what was a very powerful pattern, and in that vision it came to me that Hebrew language, Jewish, is like the oldest culture, and there was a kind of an envy or a competition, might have been, I don't know, between this who has the deepest roots. And because I was really asking myself, because I was born in Dachau, why always stays this guilt and this big subject between those cultures, what is happening there? And then I saw your videos, for example, of Hines Zeba, and I felt that there was so much power in those women's circles, and it comes from the language also, and from that deep connection to those songs. Mm-hmm. Can you explain me, please, what is it about this song?
Hines Zeba. Okay, yeah. So first of all, it was written not by me, by Shai Or and Orit Feyul Or. So Orit Feyul and Shai Or are my friends, and Orit Feyul Or is the woman who actually introduced me to this whole path of healing. So I want to a little bit wait on this and tell you that after I finished like 4 years of marching, peace, Women of the World Unite, a lot of hard work, flying all over the world, really, and meeting leaders and being inspired and having miraculous moments, but not feeling myself anymore. Like just the thing that I told you before about sacrificing myself for the greater cause. That I thought it was a good thing to do at the time. I thought that was, but this became more important, and I lost a lot of power, so I collapsed. I really collapsed, and I had a friend of mine gave me a book, כישופים ומכשפות טובות. כישופים ומכשפות טובות, which means a kind of a book for good witches. Mm-hmm. Okay? מכשפות, it's witches. טובות is good. So you add the two words, מכשפות טובות. Mm-hmm. So it's like one word, good witches. the thing about Hebrew and the way you can play with it. So in the book, I read all kinds of poems that this woman wrote about women, but not from the whole political, social aspect, but like more from kind of a storytelling, spiritual, natural aspect of it. So she's talking about the women who come from the woods, the women who come from the sky, the women who come from the water, like
elements,
a whole other aspect, a whole other layer, a deeper layer, but also about women. And I read this book, and it's like feeling something about it calling me. So I wrote to her, thank you for this book. And I think it was, again, something really amazing happened. And I did a crowdfunder at the time for the album, which I didn't have any power to do. So I stopped in the middle, and I didn't make it. I really was powerless. I couldn't anymore move without paying attention to me. I couldn't. I just couldn't. It was like, and I wrote to her, and we became kind of friends. And she said to me, "Come to Romania. We're having this women's circle in Romania." So I went there, and it was the first time I was in a space where no one wanted anything from me. Like I never experienced anything like that before. I can fall asleep, I can be angry, I can be jealous, I can be whatever. It's not, and I've been to spiritual circles, and when they expect you to, expecting nothing, sleep, be depressed, it's okay. Like I never experienced that. And then I started to realize how much aggression I have inside of me towards myself. And this is where I started going into healing, to this whole healing aspect. And we became good friends. Shai Or is her partner, and he wrote a book called Miraculous Parenting. Have you heard about it?
No. Very interesting title.
Miraculous Parenting. So this couple, actually their daughter is my bass player.
Ah,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
So she's going to play with me today.
Cool.
They taught me a lot of things that I didn't know. And one of the things they did is they wrote this song, Hine Ze Ba.
Oh, really?
So he's also used to be a musician, and they wrote the lyrics together, and he composed it. So, and the minute I heard the song, it was like, what a song. Hine Ze Ba. So Hine Ze Ba, it means here it comes. Here it comes, here it comes. So that's how it starts. And then it says, Ani ma'amina she'akol letovati, which means I believe everything is for my good benefit. Ani sho'efet v'noshefet et ahavati. I inhale and exhale my love. Ani achat afa, I am one, flying. Ani ha'ela, I am the goddess. Chofshiya benishmati, is free in my soul. Ani kol yechola, I can do anything. It's like I'm. And then in the end it says, Hine ze ba, here it comes. Hine ze kan v'ze nitan. Here it is here, and it is given. Amen. Amen. So that's the song.
If you have two things that really hold down your system, it's guilt and shame. So the question for me is, how can we overcome this in a really broader scale? I'm always kind of searching for the recipe. And of course, it's love, it's hope, it's trust. But those words are being used so much that you sometimes, on every ad, on every second ad, you have something.
It becomes a poster as well.
Yes.
It becomes like, I love me, I have my hand on my heart. It becomes a technical thing.
Yes.
Like when a prayer becomes technical, it's no longer a prayer. So, what's a prayer? I don't know. Like, all I can say is, I feel guilt, I feel shame. I probably will feel guilt and shame till the day I die. I'm never going to really lose it. It's part of being human. I think that it's just to live with everything that you are, you know, and not trying to kick things out.
Ah, okay.
For me, it really helped. It helped me. It still helps me a lot. It's kind of okay, I'm realizing this is what I feel. And it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. Like, if I feel shame, it doesn't mean I'm shameful. If I feel guilt, it doesn't mean I'm guilty. I feel it. Just another thing is my new therapist, she says to me about feelings. And it's through yoga, because I now go to kind of a somatic experiencing therapy to go back to my body more. And it also helps me. And when I remember everything, every emotion, it sprouts, it becomes powerful, and then it's forgotten. Vanishes. It's all waves. So like guilt, like shame, like anger, like anything. When you realize it, when you really remember it, so it helps me. But I don't expect anymore to not feel shame or guilt or envy.
Ah.
I feel it.
And it's in this moment there. And then the next moment.
Maybe the next moment it's not. Yeah. But I'm human. For many years, I wanted to be beyond human. I think it's one of the most harmful things of the spiritual practices, in my opinion, and I think that's also patriarchy. It's to have Buddha and Jesus as I want to be like
role models.
They're role models. I think it's to have ideal role models is not a healthy thing. Like I stopped trying to have them as role models, because then I'm like, I'm not perfect. And I suffer. And I think that the female side of, and I learned that from Orit Fayul O and from Shai O and from my therapist now. I don't expect anymore to be beyond human. All I expected for me is to be a human. And there's something about it that when you really, it makes it easier to live. And sometimes I do my practices, sometimes I don't do my practices. I'm not a computer, I'm not a robot. I'm an emotional woman. I feel lonely a lot of the times. I feel that I need someone to lean on. It's part of being human. And it's okay. If you ask me what I want to talk about today and what I want to inspire, it's come home to yourself, It's for me, that's what I would like to inspire. It's like, come home to yourself. Remember to be remember your inner authority. Remember that it's okay to be human. You don't need to do anything. Just when we learn, like when I learned to love myself more and to be at my back, I feel like now this is the deeper key for peace. And this is where I am right now. I'm sure that if you talk to me in 5 years, I'll be in a completely different place.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Yael, for talking to me, especially on the day where you perform. I know that's not always possible, but thank you so much. And
My pleasure.
Wish you a great concert.
Thank you.
And we will participate and so my daughter is going to be there.
Amazing.
So, yes.
There she's coming?
With her friend.
Okay.
That was important for her.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.